from home. And today it's sunny.
That's not a discount because the net price is 50.
Okay, but the machine, I guess, is on discount then. It's on Amazon for 150.
150?
Yeah. A couple of months ago, I spoke about struggling with anxiety in one of my vlogs, and a lot of you guys seem to resonate with that. I know that this is a topic that a lot of people struggle with, so I wanted to share something that I've been noticing over the last 2 months. In July, I picked up reading again. Reading has always been one of my biggest hobbies, and it's something that I used to really love as a child. Sorry about that, my dishwasher was complaining. As I was saying, in July I picked up reading again, and reading has always been probably my biggest hobby. As children, I think we have a lot of imagination, which is why we sometimes connect with fantasy novels or with other types of fiction work when we are children or teenagers. And that was really the case for me. I would sometimes get really obsessed with fantasy books or fantasy movies, and I would literally get sad and cry over the fact that these worlds were not real. And I used to think that like reality was so boring and so dull in comparison to these fantasy worlds that it just made me genuinely sad. Fast forward many years, I always kept reading, but since I started working, I've been reading more nonfiction. So I focused on reading books about psychology, about business, about leadership, career, that sort of thing. I used to think that I should be reading for the sake of learning something and not reading for the sake of entertainment, which in hindsight is a very silly thing to think. So fast forward to a couple of months ago when I started reading fiction again, I just noticed that it sparked this joy in me. I've been feeling less anxious and more settled. I don't feel the roller coaster of emotions that I used to feel sometimes. And I think I can attribute this to two things. One of them is that I went to therapy, and the other one is that I reconnected with a hobby that I loved. The therapy really helped me in learning that my mind makes interpretations out of events, which are 95% of the times not real. Before I went to therapy, I would very often assume that the interpretations that I make out of events in my own head are the reality. But then I've learned that that's not the case. And sometimes our body can't tell the difference between what we actually live and what our brain is processing at the time. So we sometimes suffer for things which are not even real just because we are imagining this happening in our head. So that, I think, caused me a lot of anxiety, a lot of suffering in the past. And I finally learned that I can trust my own mind in that sense, because my mind makes up interpretations which are just completely wrong at times. And the other part about reading books, I can honestly say this has helped me just as much as therapy, if not even more, because I feel like I reconnected with something from my childhood. And you know the saying of like, if you want to be happier, do more of the type of stuff you were doing when you were a kid. When we are kids, we don't really have this concept of worrying about the future or feeling anxious about the future. We just live in the present. A lot of these things which we enjoyed doing as a kid, they're actually still things that you can enjoy today. You know, whether it was painting or building Lego or reading or watching anime. And I'm just feeling happier now because I'm doing something that brings me a lot of joy. And I stopped restricting myself of doing it, which was just completely stupid. Based on my own experience, if you're feeling anxiety, I have 2 tips for you. First of all, try to understand if you're causing this anxiety to yourself. And if that's the case, try to work with a therapist because it can really help. And secondly, just start doing more things that make you happy, whatever that is. So yeah, big shout out to books because they have made me happier. A cup of tea to finish off the workday. work around 6 and now it's 5 minutes to 7 and I was just kind of preparing for my German class. I started doing some German classes on Lingoda. I was just going over the preparation material for my class. Today it is about Modalverben, which are sort of helper verbs, I think, in German. And it will be all about learning how to use Modalverben when you're using the passive voice. So yeah, I'm excited. And this brings me to the sponsor of this portion of the video, Lingoda. Lingoda is an online language school and I'm really grateful for them for supporting my channel and giving me some credits to try out their classes. So far, I'm really impressed and I can genuinely recommend this to anyone who's wanting to learn a language. Lingoda works with live Zoom classes and these classes can be small group classes with 3 to 5 people or private classes like one-to-one with your teacher. What I personally really like about Lingoda is their study approach. There have been many studies recently that have proven that the best way to learn a new language is to focus on speaking the language very frequently, rather than focusing on the rules and the grammar behind it. And that is exactly what the teachers at Lingoda focus on. Every class is conducted in the learning language at the adequate level of the class, and we as students are really encouraged to speak and to read out loud in the learning language and to not be afraid of making mistakes. The grammar and the rules are obviously still part of the classes, but the emphasis lies in speaking. Lingoda offers German and English from levels A1 to C1, as well as Spanish, French, and Business English from levels A1 to B1. Lingoda also has this concept of sprints, which, like in software engineering, is just an intense period of time to learn or to do something. In this case, it is a 30-day challenge designed to help you build a habit of learning a new language every single day. If you finish a language sprint, you can earn 50% cashback on the attended classes and credits for free classes in the future. If you want to learn or improve one of these languages, then this is the perfect opportunity to start. And you can use my code CSJackie for $25 off your sprint registration. Best of luck, and now let's attend my German class. So in the spirit of talking about books, I do get a lot of requests, mostly on Instagram, of people asking me to talk about my favorite books or the books that I recommend the most. I think there are a lot of you guys out there that maybe want to get into reading or get into fantasy or some other genre, so I'm more than happy to talk a bit more about what I'm reading. And I don't know, if this is something that we can connect over, then excellent. If you guys don't like it so much, just let me know in the comments. I don't need to talk so much about books on my channel because obviously that's also not the main focus, so just let me know. But anyway, if you're not interested in hearing about these books, you can just skip to the next chapter. I always put the timestamps on my videos. So let's talk about my Fall TBR. TBR stands for to be read. It's kind of like the books you have in the reading pipeline. And I have a few which I have in physical format, but then there's others which I think I'm going to get on my Kindle. I haven't bought them yet. And there's also 2 which I have on pre-order and they will arrive in October and November. Starting off with the book that I'm reading at the moment, it's called A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed.
Editing this video just made me realize that I'm terrible at giving book summaries. Do yourself a favor and check the book summaries online. I'm sorry.
It's about a boy and a girl that go to this late author's estate, which is a big house on a cliff that is about to fall down, with the aim of investigating his work while at the same time planning the renovation of the house. It's set in a world that's very similar to ours, but there are small fantasy elements to it. It has an academia setting, so I would say it gives off a bit of dark academia vibes, but overall I would say it's fiction with a bit of fantasy and a bit of romance. The writing is really good, it's elegant and it keeps you engaged, and the story is quite interesting as well. Next up we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. This book is about a girl that lives in the 1700s and she makes a pact with the devil by accident, which makes her immortal and it makes her forgettable to everyone she meets. Until one day she meets a man that remembers her. I'm expecting this book to be heavy on the characters and the character development. And then we have The Fellowship of the Ring by Tolkien. My boyfriend bought me this beautiful edition and honestly I can't wait because I haven't read Tolkien at all. I plan on starting with The Lord of the Rings and then I want to read The Hobbit too. I know that Tolkien is the king of fantasy and it was his work that inspired so many other fantasy series, so I think this is such a classic, and if you're a fantasy reader you obviously need to read Lord of the Rings. In terms of the storyline, I don't think it needs any introduction. It's a classic epic tale of fantasy. Then we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Sorry, I'm not sure how the author's name is pronounced, but this is it. This book is about a boy and a girl that are childhood friends, and they decide to build a video game together. This book became very popular and it has gained a lot of praise, and it has even won some prizes. I talked about it in one of my previous vlogs. Then I have 2 books on pre-order. One of them is Two Twisted Crowns, which is the continuation of One Dark Window. One Dark Window is this novel here. This is definitely more of a fall-winter read because it is a gothic romance. It's really good. The other book I have on pre-order is called Iron Flame, and it's the continuation of Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing is a fantasy romance novel as well, and it's about dragon riders and a war college where students go to get trained to become dragon riders. So I got the salted maple and caramel fall latte. Ooh, it's way too sweet as well. Last year I tried the pumpkin spice latte and it was also too sweet, but I think this one is even worse. I love Regent's Park in autumn. It's so beautiful. Yeah. I just finished my book. I would rate this 4 stars, I think. 3.5 to 4 stars. I really enjoyed the setting of this book and the idea behind it. And I enjoyed the writing, and I really enjoyed the main character, and I could relate to the main character. It was just a bit too predictable in my opinion. There was nothing here that really surprised me. But yeah, overall I think it's a beautiful book and a beautiful concept, and yeah, I think I rated 4 stars. If you enjoy dark academia and folklore, then this is for you.